Today, China's toxic addiction is fueled by global imports of coal. From North and South America, Africa, Asia, and Australia, dirty coal is loaded on ships bound for China's ports. Each year, the toxic trade expands. In 2009, the United States shipped a mere 2,700 tons of coal to China. However, in the first 6 months of 2010 alone, coal shipments from the United States to China soared to almost 3 million tons and is still growing. This summer, the largest export contract in Australia's history was signed to ship $60 billion worth of coal to China. All this while Australia's newly elected Prime Minister promises to put a price on carbon. Perhaps it would be better stated, put a profit on carbon.
A large Chinese freighter carrying coal to China ran aground on Australia's Great Barrier Reef on Saturday. The Xingning-1 was hauling 72,000 tons of coal when it crashed into the reef at full speed, some 9 miles out of its designated shipping lane.
Amid the pomp and circumstance of the White House state dinner for Chinese President Hu Jintao, observers noted an interesting figure among the guest list. Washington State Governor Christine Gregoire joined the distinguished assemblage enjoying an excellent $250 bottle of Washington State Cabernet from the Columbia Valley. Why the emphasis on Washington State? And why the attention to the symbolic gesture of notable wine to be served to the Chinese president at the state dinner, a location where symbols mean everything? 2,700 miles away, in a less rarefied locale on the Columbia River, perhaps an answer can be found. The forces of Big Coal have targeted Longview, Washington as the Columbia River port from which millions of tons of dirty coal will be sent to feed the voracious appetite of China for coal-fired electricity. China, the world's biggest energy consumer and biggest global warming polluter, is becoming the new market for America's coal, and America is poised to become China's willing new export colony. Environmental activists are engaged in a new battle against toxic coal along the banks of the Columbia River. Coal, strip-mined from the Rockies, will be loaded onto coal cars edging along tracks next to some of America's most beautiful waters, home to some of our nation's greatest salmon fish resources. But it is far from certain whether Big Coal and their Chinese customers will succeed in making Washington ports the new dumping ground for their toxic product. Environmentalists are demanding closer scrutiny of this coal deal and are asking for a complete review of the potential severe consequences to the environment of the Pacific Northwest and the impact of this coal export deal on the global warming crisis. Instead of feeding the coal plants in China, citizens are contemplating new actions to halt coal shipments through their communities. With elections pending in their state, Washington is poised to be the new battleground in the war against dirty coal. As Washington state goes, so may go an entire nation. And America's promise of clean, renewable energy may be tossed aside in favor of Big Coal's greed and our dependence on credit and funding from the world's emerging economic superpower, China. Our planet is at risk every day, and each day we remain dependent on coal is another day that we run the risk of irreversible climate change. Unfortunately, for policymakers, for so-called leaders, it is often all talk, but no action. It is one thing to pass a resolution. It is quite another thing to truly commit to a clean energy future. That commitment looks something like this. A serious investment in solar energy can power entire continents and make coal obsolete immediately.
More power from the sun hits the earth in 1 hour than all other forms of energy that man uses combined in an entire year.
We now need to use our traditions, our energy, our leadership to say, let's move forward, let's do green energy, let's forget about the fossil fuels. We can create new jobs and more jobs by using solar energy and other types of green energy and leave the coal mining behind us.
It's true, and it is something that no one of influence will own up to because it means challenging a force that has run the energy industry over the last century. In a recent Rolling Stone interview, Bill Gates stated that we need an energy miracle, and that he doesn't know what form that miracle will take. I certainly don't want the government to only pick a few paths, because our probability of success is much higher if we are pursuing many, many paths. Many paths may be the way. However, a little-known fact about solar energy is that solar thermal plants in the southwestern United States, covering a square grid less than 100 miles on each side, could generate enough electricity to power the entire United States and end the toxic grip of dirty coal once and for all. Mexico, China, India, Southern Europe, North Africa, Australia, and the Middle East all have solar resources that could assure that their societies could grow and develop without any reliance on coal to power their cities, run their industries, or expand their economies without burning a single lump of coal.
People are just acting like there's no other options available to us, and there's so many.
We're on the cusp of a clean energy revolution that can quickly reduce our dependence on coal, reduce our dependence on oil, and begin to dramatically combat the problem of global warming. The technology is ready today. China's showing the way as to how you rapidly scale up wind and solar. We can do that in the United States, we can do that across Europe, we can do that across the entire developed and developing worlds. But to do that, we need to overcome the incredible entrenched power of the fossil fuel industry. And so that's my message, which is we need folks to stand up and say, we can do better than coal, we can do better than oil, and let's get moving with clean energy.
But here is where science and technology bump up against entrenched interests, corporate profits, and timid politicians. Coal is cheap in cost, but deadly expensive in its consequences for the planet. It is the nation's single biggest contributor to global warming and a source of air pollution that kills 24,000 people per year. Look around the planet at the melting Arctic ice cap, the devastating floods around the world, the crippling heat waves in Europe, at weather out of balance everywhere, and you will see the real-time consequences of our deadly relationship with coal. But we can beat our toxic addiction. Coal plants can be closed. New coal plants can be stopped. We can make a choice for clean energy, a choice for our families, our children, and our future. People are using their power to make leaders aware of the many dangers of coal. Students are organizing to make their colleges and universities end their usage. Throughout the United States, students are organizing to end dirty coal. The Sierra Student Coalition and the Sierra Club have targeted 17 college campuses in 11 states that burn coal. Student activists, supported by the Sierra Club, were able to get the University of Wisconsin to convert its coal-burning plant to renewable wood pellets and chips. Northern Michigan University withdrew its plans to use coal as a backup fuel. Ball State University will eliminate coal in favor of building the largest closed geothermal energy system on its campus.
This system will heat and cool more than 40 buildings over 660 acres, and as such, it will be the first full-scale district geothermal project in the country.
On the positive side, over 600 campuses have committed to zero carbon emission. But despite these successes, coal plants continue to operate on over 60 college campuses nationwide, and protests continue. We can choose to survive. We can become informed and take action. We might even put a comment on our Facebook pages about ending our lethal addiction to dirty coal. The problem is, the data servers in Oregon that link together Facebook's 500 million members, more people than live in any single country except China and India, are powered by dirty coal.
Facebook lives in a big box full of computers, and all the Facebook pictures and words and faces are kept inside it. And the box is in Oregon. Facebook in the box eats a lot of special food called electricity. A good way of making electricity is by letting cheeky clouds with lips blow windmills round and round. But silly Mark Zuckerberg chose dirty old coal.
So, when you turn on your computer and go to your Facebook page, remember that you are linked not just to your friends, you are linked to dirty coal. You are linked to this ancient black rock that is poisoning and killing the planet. This is the nature of the enemy we face, an enemy that often pays off any and all competition.
The coal industry is very powerful, it's very entrenched in Washington, and the only way we're going to make progress is if there is a large public demand that the coal industry finally begins to clean up its act.
It's not only expensive in terms of the contamination of our atmosphere, but the cost of human lives really means that this type of energy is long past, and we should try other forms of alternative energy.
There's going to be some damage from climate change, no matter what we do. What's at stake is survival now.
You know, when you You have a habit, and then you realize that this habit is no longer good for you, and you realize it's time to change the habit. It's just time for a change.
Big utilities have won many battles in the green energy debate, but perhaps their most impressive and disturbing victory is their lowering of all our expectations. Some have suggested that the battle over global warming and protecting us from this mountain of poison may already be over. We and our world leaders must join together and take these actions to prove that the battle is not over. First, enact an immediate moratorium on new coal plants. Second, enact sunset laws on all existing coal plants so that no coal plant can operate for more than 50 years. And finally, enact a 50% by 2030 renewable energy requirement for all electricity generation. Do these things and we can end our toxic addiction to dirty coal.